I work a lot as well to do with the oil industry. And things that I find out, like for instance, one bottle of plastic, take a third of it is oil. You think, well, hang on, that can't be possible. A third of that bottle is taken out as oil to produce that one bottle, and heaps more water than what's actually in it. So it's like, hang on, we really have gone mad at this point. But how can we change it? What can we do? So, originally...
Do you mean that if you take the volume of water in that bottle, a third of that volume of oil is needed to make that bottle?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
That doesn't include transportation of the product to...
Well, I'd heard that does include transportation.
That does include transportation.
Yeah, the actual production of the plastic and the transportation and manufacture of one bottle. So that's a huge amount. It's just one of those totally mad concepts and then we just chuck them away. So, people that are drinking generally a bottle a day, if we look behind us and see a pile of 360 bottles, it'd be quite an image, it'd be quite a picture if we had a photo of one person standing there with this little mountain and then, all of us with our 360 bottles behind. It's like, wow, we're starting to look at something which is actually huge, and we really need to change this.
Sorry, out of interest, do you know by comparison how much energy and oil it takes to produce the tap?
No, I don't. No. But tap water is the other thing which, we know tap water now is just full of rubbish. It's full of absolute rubbish. But also, never, if a plastic bottle has been left in a car or gets hot in any way, never drink the water, because the water becomes really toxic. Because when this soft plastic, is meant to break down in 200 years, but it is meant to break down. So what you have with this plastic breaking down, so when it heats, when temperatures rise, classic in a car on a hot day, doors all shut, you don't think about it, you've got a bottle of water in the car, that is leaching all these plasticides into the water. And it has huge health impacts. So not only the environmental issue of just these mountains of plastic that we're creating, there's also the serious health consequences from us drinking. So going back, well, originally what did we use? We used bladders from animals, and every day people would know, I'm going to drink water today. And so what you do is, before you do, that's your priority in life, is to get water. You have to find it somewhere. However you find it, you've got to fill your bladder up. So, glass, I would say, is ideal, really, in this situation. A glass bottle, something that we can refill. It's not ideal for people that are travelling. It's not ideal for young children. Everything's got pros and cons. But a glass bottle has the least impact, and it's health, you can heat it up, but you're not going to change the molecular structure of the water. For travelling, otherwise, I'd recommend steel. And steel, again, takes a huge amount of resources, mostly comes from China. So when we look at each thing, it's like, okay, well, how can I make a difference? Because there's all these things I've got to balance up as to, but one stainless steel bottle is going to last you, well, at least 5 years. So if that one bottle, or glass bottle, is refilled every day, and we calculate this mountain of plastic that each individual person has stopped and said, okay, I make a pledge, I commit. I personally haven't, for at least 3 years now, bought a plastic bottle of water, because it's just my reality. I know everyone, it doesn't matter where I am in the world, I have to find water. And I hate using tap water. So it's one of those, oh God, is there a spring anywhere? Like, a lot of us actually have springs which are forgotten about. They're just totally forgotten about because it's not part of us. I really encourage people, wherever you come from, if you can get out to the country anyway, just ask about, where are there springs? Is it still good water? Even find out about it getting tested, because it's amazing that there's just springs all over the country and they're not being used, they've been forgotten about.
On Ordnance Survey maps it shows where springs are.
Yeah. So
Tap water, if you filter it, does that make it any better?
yeah. I mean, filtering is definitely a good idea, but then also you're then left with all the packaging that comes from the filters, and you do need to change filters regularly, because otherwise they've also shown that that has got these health implications, because a lot of bacteria can actually build up if there's not enough carbon left, if the filter is not working properly anymore. So it's definitely better than just drinking tap water. There's other options. There's a company called AquaAid, and they have these huge, great big, the big blue office water containers. And they do a lot of work in the developing world, bringing water to people that just do not have it, building wells around the world. So, and this is a spring water. Every county, they have their own springs where they fill up these big blue containers, and they just swap them. It costs £7 for a spring water of that big. I mean, I don't know how much it would work out of, if you actually bought a bottle of water per litre in comparison to a £7 huge. And then they just swap it every 2 weeks. They, go around places. So there's pros and cons of it. That's going to take transport to actually bring it to people. But I think that company, AquaAid, is great to support if you were to choose a water, and you can have these big ones, and then every day you can just fill your water up. Don't have to do the whole tap water or the filter. So that's one idea as to what we can really do to really start spreading the word of we've got to stop this plastic revolution that we're in right now, where everything is coming from plastic, and taking is like personal radical responsibility of saying, okay, what can I do? What can I do personally? So that's, the water is obviously a major issue, because there's not anybody that doesn't use water, and then it's getting our food. So again, when we talk about where do we buy from, if we can support our local independent shops, that's really the push that we have to make. And yes, a lot of people will say, but they're so expensive. I can't, it's twice as much, it's so much more than in Tesco's. It's really, really expensive. I can't feed my family on shopping in this local shop. But it really is, if we can try and tell ourselves, actually it's not expensive, it's just the cost that it is. Right now, to have a fair price of something, organic food, it's not expensive, it's just how much, in reality, it really does cost. So trying as much as we possibly can to support local shops, organic food, fair trade food, that's what we can really, really be bringing in a daily basis to each of our lives, and withdrawing the power, withdrawing the energy from the corporations who are responsible for causing so much contamination on this planet. Another classic, which we all know about, Coca-Cola. There's a great website called Killer Coke, and people have got no idea of what Coca-Cola is responsible for. I don't know if many of you are aware of Coca-Cola's exploits, but Coca-Cola are now buying up a lot of the world's water as well. So if you look on a lot of water bottles, a lot of drinks, it's all now being owned by Coca-Cola. So the power that they are generating to control is something that we, as an individual, need to withdraw our support of what they're doing. And a couple of years ago in India, Coca-Cola's now actually been banned from a few states in India, which is great news, because of what happened there. They were pulling out the groundwater. They need to use a really huge amount of water in the production of cocoa, not just what's in the bottle, but the whole processing of it. So they got to a point where the wells were running dry for all the local people. And this became a serious problem, that the locals in India didn't have any water. And around each Coca-Cola factory, it's extremely toxic. There's a really high level of contamination. And the people were left with no water and all this toxicity.
So why is it so toxic around the factories?
Because of the chemicals that they use. Yeah, they're really, really nasty chemicals. When we look at a bottle of Coca-Cola, it's been incredibly diluted.
Okay.
when it's in its pure like syrup form, before it's really that's how. I mean, even now we all know, you put a coin into a Coke and it comes up all lovely and sparkly, and that's it, super diluted. So if we imagine when it's in its pure form, it's highly corrosive, highly toxic.
And I thought that all the tins as well, making all the you've got the aluminium. I mean, I suppose in India it's probably not. I don't know whether they have aluminium cans in India, but aluminium smelting for a start, a horrid industry. But bottling as well. I don't know whether they do actually do reusing of the bottles in India. Certainly in the West. Just chuck it away and get another one, isn't it?
Well, that used to be good, the good old
Plastics.
days of take your glass bottle back to the
5p
shop.
back, 5p back or 10p back, or even I remember going to our local zoo and making a bit of pocket money by just taking all the bottles back, getting 2p on the bottle.
Yes.
Brilliant.
All the bar drinks. Iron brew in Scotland is the biggest.
Yeah, roll on the old days.
I know, but it is. It's that everything they talk about, don't they? Everything comes in a circle, and coming back to that refilling things. I mean, and people are going to hate me for saying this, but I think recycling's a cop out. I mean, yes and no. We've got to reuse, not think, oh, well, I've recycled it. It's okay. Look at how big my recycling bin it is. It's overflowing. And most recycling is shipped off to China. It's shipped off overseas because we don't have the production plants here to deal with recycling. If we did, and hopefully we will have in the future, they will be able to deal with recycling right here. But what we really need to make a push for is reusing our bottles, refilling our bottles. I mean, they've started doing it in some little shops where you can refill your dishwashing liquid and your shampoo, and that's a great start. That's where we really have to move to, is saying, right, okay, this one bottle, this one plastic bottle here, how many times can you reuse? I mean, does anyone know how many times can you reuse?
I've made it about 25 times. I generally have used certain bottles I counted it to start with, because that question, how many times can you reuse a plastic bottle, came up for me, and I thought 25 times, that was alright.
Well, if you use it carefully, you can use it for half the bottle, so you're talking
200 uses.
That's
right.
No, what happens is that the top, you lose the tops, or the tops tend to degrade and wear out, so that's a little bit of an issue, and it gets a bit dirty on the inside. But my last family holiday with my mum and dad, remember we went to Greece, and obviously I wasn't drinking alcohol because I wasn't quite old enough, but the bottles of Fanta, and they were all really worn on the sides of the bottles, and it was like they would put the bottle in front of you, and I would think, how many hundreds of times has that been reused? And some of them were newer, and some of them were really, really old, and what I was looking for was the oldest one, the most chipped and the most worn, and it's like, and then I sort of kind of would check that it was, and now I think back and I think, that was proper reusing.
I mean, that's the push that we really have to do. And I went into 3 little organic shops in my area in Sussex and was saying, look, can't you just have shampoo? Everybody uses shampoo. It's a classic thing that we all, not all of us, but a lot of us use. And that Faith in Nature, which is a good brand, they do big bulk, and why can't... And I had to go in twice and go back again. Oh, have you got the shampoo? No. And then I got a friend to go and ask for shampoo. So then they had demand. And the following month, there was the shampoo. It's like,
That's a really important thing to say, actually, demand.
Yeah, it's all supply and demand.
And in some ways, we slate capitalism, and we slate big business, and we say it's this and it's that and it's the other, and it does these bad things. But when we as individuals demand that you do it better, hey big business, hey government, we demand you do it better, we're not gonna then they do listen to us, because it's us that they're here to serve. We mustn't forget that.
They're shareholders, they're there to serve.
As well, yes, as well, and themselves. But if they can't serve their shareholders, will lose all their money, and the directors will be out of business if we don't buy their products. Now they can use very subtle marketing, tricks, mind games, and all those things, and subtle and political manipulations as well. And we you know, all of that goes on. We're aware of it. But at the end of the day, consumer power. If we demand a new product, and that's where we have to learn. You know, let's as individuals, and then once we've learned it, we have to disseminate it out to other people, because you know there's no point in just us 12 people knowing, or 20 people knowing that Coca-Cola using aluminium tins is really bad for India. But if we disseminate it out and we say, we tell the Indian people, you know, look, demand better, and that's why I think. I mean, I'd like to look at it always on a positive level and say, you know, big businesses, maybe they don't want to change. Maybe there's more profit in it for them. But eventually, if you make it such that there is more profit in improving, becoming less carbon, or producing less carbon, or just looking at the whole things, and you know, the whole movement is started now. But we need to keep on the pressure, because they're doing everything to maintain profits.
We can see that. If we look at the supermarkets now, over the last few years there is a demand for organic food, for biodegradable dishwashing liquid.
Yeah.
You know, even I think 5 years ago, fair trade is now like the buzzword, and it's coming in because there is consumer demand. People really do want these things.
What really annoys me is that, you know, to shop ethically, it's just so much more expensive.
Yeah.
And it just really annoys me, the prices in my local health food shop. And I'm just like, you know, faith in nature. I've used their products before, but for me it's a treat, because they're so expensive. Yeah.
What we do is we get a bulk order. So you get all the whole foods, everything that's sold in the health food shop. You buy it in bulk. It reduces the packaging, and it's about like a third of the price off.
Yeah.
So
you also set up a collective to buy in bulk.
Definitely. Now the cost of it is, I'd like to, because I've done a lot of research in this area now. One of the reasons why the supermarkets are keeping the prices quite high, and for things like soya milk and rice milk, so easy to produce in bulk, but they're nevertheless how much more, 2-3 times the price of dairy products. And this is partly due to political pressure that the Milk Marketing Board and the follow-on from the Milk Marketing Board, the farmers used to be able to exert on the government, because they have subsidies to make their milk cheaper. But people who produce rice milk and soya milk don't have those subsidies. So we need, sometimes it's very important. Well, it's needed to have political activism to demand, a fairness and non-subsidies for these dairy farmers. And if they go out of business, then they go out of business, because we don't want to be drinking cow's milk anymore.
But also, people, it's so easy. People. I mean, I don't personally. I'm not into soya products. But to make soya milk, rice milk, almond milk is so easy, and I've made them all just to see, because I was really following this like anti-packaging deal for a while. It's like, I can't buy it, nope, it's in a packet. So realising, I was like, my God, actually, from one little packet of soya beans you can make God knows how many cartons. You can make a huge amount. So teaching ourselves also, how can I make this product? And coming into this, you're not thinking I've got to buy everything in a supermarket. If the supermarket plug is pulled, we need to know how to make what we want. And going on to the cooperative of buying bulk is absolutely essential, of coming together in our groups of friends and say, right, okay, let's put an order in. And okay, who wants what? And for instance, getting the big bulks and sharing it out. And that's the way that we can actually make it to become cost efficient. And just keeping on reminding ourselves that, yes, it seems expensive, but we're comparing it to chemicals. We're comparing it to what's on sale in the supermarket.
And we're also comparing it to if things are made in low-wage countries, we're actually comparing it to how cheap slavery is. Now, there are people who are economically disadvantaged. They don't have the kind of education we do. They don't have the legal support protections that we do, and they're so easy to exploit. And businesses think, right, we'll put a big factory in Thailand, and we can employ people for 200-300 baht a day, or it's like £3, £4 a day, and we don't really care. We don't really care that much. What we really care about is the fact we're going to make loads of money, and we're going to be really competitive because we can take our product, fly it over to the West, and make a big killing. And for the next 2 years, my bonus will be £600,000 a year. You know, that's the executive is thinking that way. He's thinking, great, I can make a load of money, and sooner or later other people will come in and they'll just start doing that as well, and it becomes less profitable for them. But we're comparing that slavery thing, and actually, you know, okay, so maybe we have to take a little bit of a cut in our sort of luxury type lifestyles. But there are other ways, like you're saying, sharing. You can make yourself richer by sharing, by caring with and getting together and cooperating. So cooperating, sharing, all those lovely things we like to do, but we think, oh well, is it cost effective? Well, it's very cost effective to share with your friends.
And it's a great social thing too.
Ah, yeah.
Get your mates over once a month, you know, get all your goodies and you've got your own little shop then, you're your own independent store. So in most of us, we pretty much eat the same thing. If we all look at our kind of shopping lists, we're such creatures of habit. We eat the same thing every week, and we go and we know what we want and we buy what. So it's quite easy for us to get together a bulk shopping order, and it's a great social thing to say, right, once a month let's get together and let's order bulk together in a community. And that's bringing back in that community aspect. It's bringing back in, you know, working as a group and becoming independent.
I just wondered. I mean, do you what you were saying about Tesco's? It was dead interesting. What you in Bristol, where I'm from. There, Tesco's is just about to buy the Bristol City Ground, turn it into a mega superstore. There's a big battle over it, you know. And what I was going to ask you is, how do you regard the shift by Tesco and the other big supermarkets to like stocking fair trade, stocking organic stuff, which I sort of feel is a bit of a victory, really. But the same is a two-edged sword, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And what I was wondering was, how far do you think that can go? I mean, will we end up with Tesco still controlling the economy, but all fair trade and all, you know, would that be a good thing? Do you know what I mean? Have you got any thoughts about that? Because I'm puzzled over it, you know what I mean?
I totally know